Well, today we're talking about a book that's very interesting. Ryan recently read it, and I know a lot of people read it. It's called The Psychology of Money. And it's not just about money strategies, it's about why we make the choices that we make, even though they a lot of times they might not even make a lot of sense. So we're going to talk about why mindset is a bigger advantage than any investment tip in a lot of cases. We'll break it all down next. Welcome in. This is Perfect Game Retirement. I'm Ben George with Ryan Ledden at Black Oak Asset Management. You can get in touch. Everything is in the show description for you. If you want to sit down and talk with Ryan, discuss what we talk about today or anything we discuss here on the channel. But Ryan, I think this is an interesting book. I know you've read it, but this is an interesting discussion because behavioral finance is a big deal. And oftentimes these emotions and the way that we think about things drives many of the decisions we make about money.
Yeah, people aren't rational decision makers. I mean, emotions fall into every aspect of money and decisions that we do to save, to buy, whatever it may be. And that's why even the CFP exam continues. The questions become larger and larger component of the CFP exam because that's what a big part of my job is managing behaviors. And it's not just about the math of it. And we'll get into that today. Sometimes the math is not always the answer. Sometimes the math may seem like an obvious answer, but sometimes it's not the answer because our psychology and emotions and what adds anxiety to our life, but what also adds peace of mind to our life. So we'll get into that. But yeah, it's fascinating to me, and this was a great book.
And I think that's why, you work with a financial advisor because, no one plan is the same, right? You might rely more on math for someone and more on emotions for another, but that's what we're going to break down today. And again, if you haven't read this book before, just kind of give you a quick description of what it's all about. But by Morgan Housel, a best-selling book about how people think about money and how they behave with money. And he explains that financial decisions are often influenced more by emotions, experiences, and personal history rather than logic or math. And they share 19 stories that highlight why behavior is such an important part of the financial process. And there are a few concepts we want to kind of take away from this book today, Ryan, and discuss. And the first one is interesting. No one is crazy, right? That's the first concept. Housel describes how different financial backgrounds, generations, incomes, values, they all impact how people view their money and why they view the money the way they do.
Yeah, that's the stories are what make this book really interesting. I mean, me as a math nerd and dealing with people's money makes this book interesting, but the stories he tells about it. But yeah, concept one being no one's crazy. So yeah, a person who has an engineer analytical brain could look at someone who's kind of a free spirit and think you're nuts. Like, why are you making the decisions you are? And then vice versa, someone who's a free spirit and sees someone who's analytical and has a spreadsheet and analyzes absolutely everything that they make a decision on. So, it's all relative. It's what the environment you grew up in. It's how you're wired. It's how your brain works. And I see it with all walks of life of the clients that we deal with, whether it's, areas that you grew up in or your age and when you were born. Again, the book goes into, people who were born during the Great Depression are obviously very different than someone who was born in a different generation where, maybe it's the latter baby boomers or Generation X was what I'm a part of. So you haven't you haven't had to go through life and reuse paper towels and, pinch pennies on absolutely everything. So it's a very different environment. So it's just what you've got accustomed to and used to based off of, again, when you were born or the family life that you were born into. So it's very different. You have very different backgrounds. I feel like where we're really good at is being sympathetic to how people are hardwired. And I tell my clients always that math is not always the answer. So, going through, there are some principles that we want to take people through, but math is not always the answer. If they want to do this before they do this, then that's okay. It may not be, what we hear, Dave Ramsey talks about baby steps, and there's other people out there that take people through certain steps that they should do, and that's not always the answer. So certain steps can be changed out based off of what gives you that peace of mind and how you're hardwired.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. There's a lot of different paths to get to where you want to go, and depending on how you view money, that's going to make up a lot of those decisions, and what Ryan can help you with. And I think concept number two is interesting. Ryan, never enough is the concept, and he gives an example of wealthy men who ended up in prison. We see this all the time because of insider trading or just breaking laws, trying to chase more, more, and more, and they ruin their reputation, ruin their career, but they just want to keep reaching for more. So I'm curious if you've seen maybe some clients, how they've hurt themselves, maybe moving the goalposts, or just that feeling of, man, I just don't have enough.
Yeah, moving the goalposts obviously resonates. Being a sports guy, that definitely resonates with me because you can continue to move the goalposts and continue to chase and continue to chase. And obviously, Bernie is the easiest example that we know of getting caught up into things like this. And the movie, I think it was just Madoff was just the name of the movie, made for TV movie actually, and it's just fascinating to see what happens. And he got just so entrenched in it, there was no way out, and it just kept going and kept going and kept going. So it's easy for people from the outside looking in, going, "Why do you do that?" I mean, he's already successful, and I asked the same thing, like, why get into that world? And it's very similar to the sports background that I had. Now I'm in, my background was playing professional baseball, but I was kicking around in the minor leagues for a long time, trying to get to that big leagues. And I never saw that big giant paycheck that some of these people get, but I was in the locker rooms with some of those people who did. And it's kind of the same thing. Like, they come from a certain area and all of a sudden they get this, big chunk of money put in their lap, and they change. Some do, but a lot of them change, and all of a sudden it's like this wealth is just this paycheck's going to last forever. And for some people, it's generational change. It is, but for some people, it's not. It's a good bit of money, but that everybody's got to hang their cleats up sometime. So you kind of I saw that firsthand, that you get that first big paycheck, and then the goalposts continue to move. Okay, I have this. Well, now I want this. I want this. There's always somebody that has more. There's always somebody that makes more. And to get caught up in that, some people can't get out of that trap. And I saw that firsthand. Is kind of what led me to be in this career of how can I prevent people from getting in that trap, if you will, in that world of just in that locker room of spend, spend, spend. And some people are gambling, and it's just, it's crazy to see the money that just flows through some people's hands, and they wake up one day and that paycheck's gone.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you say that. I saw a picture online. I think just this week, it was one of the Warriors players leaving the arena, and it's a guy that has like a 10-year-old Honda CRV or something. He was leaving the arena in, and that's pretty rare to see a guy managing his money and just not chasing that shiny object and wanting more, like he talked about. I thought that was pretty funny to see. Concept three, Ryan, reasonable is more important than rational. And Housel says that, one of the most important parts of finance is that you don't want to aim to be coldly rational when making financial decisions. Just aim to be pretty reasonable, and it's more realistic, and you have a better chance of sticking with it. So I'm curious, how often maybe do you point people in that direction of, hey, let's just be reasonable rather than just sticking directly to the best mathematical option?
Yeah, because in the book it covers this. Like, people don't make rational decisions. I mean, occasionally we will, but it boils down to emotion. Perfect example of this is a client I have, husband, wife, and they're in their early 30s. Well, they pushed all investing, everything on pause. They were just so focused on paying their house off. Well, most gurus out there would say, no, you need to, time value of money, you need to get that money invested, and then you can go pay your house off later. Your interest rate is 3%. What are you doing? You know what? I didn't argue with it. I could tell in their voices that that's what they wanted to do, and I'm not going to argue with that. So 3-4 years later, they pay their house off, and now they're on overdrive of saving for retirement. So for them, they just wanted to do that. They're paying their house off, which, again, the dollars and cents of it don't work out on paper. But for them, they could sleep at night. For them, that was reasonable. That's what they wanted to do. Rationally, probably didn't make sense when you do look at the grand scheme of things and compounding interest and time value of money versus a 3% interest rate. The mortgage wasn't a ton. either. So that's what kind of got them laser focused on paying it off even sooner. So the math person in you would say, no, they're making the wrong decision. But the reasonable person, the person who wanted to sleep at night knowing that they own the roof that is over their head, that's what they want to do. So I was not going to argue with that.
Yeah, that's a great example. I think a lot of people find themselves in that situation currently right now with mortgage rates where they are, but also people going into retirement trying to decide, do I want to pay that off and have that peace of mind versus, hey, maybe the math says do something different. So great example of that. All right, final concept to discuss here from this book is room for error. And this one's interesting. He says, room for error is underappreciated and it's misunderstood, but there is power in having a margin for error, a room for error, margin of safety there to be building in. So do you take that into account when working with your clients to put a plan together where you actually build in that room for safety there?
Yeah, absolutely. And that comes from a budgeting standpoint, but then a long-term retirement income standpoint. So from a budget standpoint, that room, that room for error, if you will, that's where I kind of put that under the category of, in a husband-wife situation, have something allocated in the budget that, hey, this is for you. You spend it on what you want. This amount of money is for you, and that's budget's different for everybody depending on what your budget is. But you say it's $100, $100 for the husband, $100 for the wife. Well, you can't. Either side can't ask what you're doing with that $100. That's theirs. If they want to blow it on food every single month, that's up to them. If they want to buy a pair of shoes every single month, that's on them. You can't question it. So just from a budgeting standpoint, we build in that room for error, if you will, in the budget. But then long term, yes, we run different scenarios that kind of has an average rate of return, way below average rate of return, and then above average rate of return. We don't dwell on the above average rate of return. We just like to show it like, hey, what if this happens? It's like, oh, that's cool. But then we go back to kind of an average rate of return and then even below. We want to focus on the below because we say, hey, even if the market way underperforms and you keep your spending at what you want it to be, here's your chances of success. Now, if that chances of success is low, then we have to say, okay, we need to make adjustments. And it could be a variety of different adjustments: save more, spend less, work longer. There's solutions to that. But it does give people a lot of peace of mind saying, hey, if the market is way below average, you still have a pretty good success rate in retirement. So we 100% that build in every plan that we do.
I love that. Well, if you want to learn more about Black Oak Asset Management and their planning process, you can schedule a time to talk with Ryan right now. It's very easy. Go to speakwithryan.com. Again, speakwithryan.com. You'll be able to pick out a time that works for you and be having these discussions about, your emotions, how you feel about different aspects of your finances and your future and your retirement, what you want it to look like. It all begins by going to speakwithryan.com. And also a good reminder, if you are looking for a book to read, this is obviously a good one, Psychology of Money, but also Ryan just wrote a new book as well, Diffuse the Retirement Threats. And Ryan, just going to give us a little bit of snippet about what to expect. I know anybody can log on right now to the website and go ahead and claim that book and look at it, but I know you put a lot of time into it.
Yeah, they can go to retireperfect.com and you can click on there and get your copy of the book. It's got a bunch of steps, actionable steps. There are some stories mixed in there as well, because again, that's what makes a lot of this financial stuff entertaining when you add stories to it. But yeah, it's a great book. We're proud of it. So we'll send that out to you. Obviously, we need a little bit of information from you. We'll send that out to you. It's got some other PDF booklets in there that have other aspects of financial planning. But yeah, we'll send that out free of charge to you. We just obviously need your name, mailing address, and we'll get it out to you. But proud of that book. But yeah, retireperfect.com. Go there and we'll send you a copy.
All right, very good. Well, thanks for being a part of this episode of Perfect Game Retirement. Please hit subscribe wherever you're watching us from. We appreciate your support, and we'll talk to you again soon.